JDBC, JPA, Hibernate, jOOQ, Blaze persistence. How are these concepts related? What does what? In this video, we will put each of them in their place in the stack, show small code examples, and by the end you will know what belongs where. An application has to communicate with a database using the structured query language. You, as a developer, must establish this communication. There are several ways of doing this. Let's consider foreign languages as a metaphor. If you speak SQL fluently, you can use it in your code and map Java objects to rows and tables in the database manually. That's JDBC. You can hire a translator. That's ORM. Using translation services makes life easier, but sometimes it's hard because of various difficulties such as cognates, untranslatable terms, and so on. Believe me, I know, I used to be a translator. So, JPA, Hibernate, and Blaze persistence belong to the ORM segment. You can hire a corrector instead of a translator. This way, you use SQL, but a corrector keeps an eye on your code and warns you if you made a mistake. That's jOOQ. And now let's explore each concept. JDBC is the low-level Java API to connect to the relational databases. It has been around since the first version of Java. It gives you various classes to work with the database from the Java application. They include connection, to create and execute statements, statement and its interfaces that are sent to the database, result set, which contains the JDBC row result set, returned by query statements. Using JDBC classes, you connect to the database, write SQL to fetch or persist data, manually map rows to objects, and handle resources. The biggest advantage of JDBC is that you have full control of your SQL. The disadvantages are that you have to write a lot of code, so you have to write every single query and also the mapping logic. And the second disadvantage that comes out of the first one is that mapping takes time. So this is how you establish a communication between the database and the application using JDBC. You tailor every query to your app, plus you know your data access layer inside out, and so it's easier to fix problems, if any. But sometimes you don't want to talk SQL and do all the mapping yourself. For various reasons. You may have a simple CRUD application or a prototype. Or you may need to perform specific operations, such as locking. Then you can stick to manipulating Java classes and let somebody else handle the database access logic. That's where ORM comes in. ORM is an object relational mapping framework. It lets you work with a Java object, but it handles all the SQL and mapping. It uses JDBC under the hood. Instead of manually writing select, insert, update, delete, and manually mapping rows to fields, you just manipulate objects and ORM translates it into database operations. But ORM is an approach. In other words, it's an abstract concept. So we need the tool to implement this approach. That's JPA. JPA stands for Java Persistence API. It is a standard specification. In this role, it includes a set of interfaces and annotations that define how an ORM tool must work. It provides guidelines for ORM tools, support for object relational mapping with annotations, and also seamless migration from one ORM tool to another. But as it is a specification, it doesn't do any work itself. It needs an implementation. JPA has several implementations, the most popular of them being Hibernate. Hibernate is an implementation and an extension of the JPA specification with some extra features on top. When people say I'm using JPA, 90% of time they mean I'm using Hibernate as a provider. Hibernate includes JPA-defined APIs, a native Hibernate API, and some extra mapping annotations. So what are the advantages of using ORM tools? You get more laconic code and accelerated development. There's no need to write most of the queries, mapping logic, and so on. If your application uses several databases, there's no need to write a separate data access logic for each database. And plus, there are several use cases that Hibernate is perfect for. For instance, when you need to use locking, or when you have complex entity graphs and you don't want to do the manual parsing. The disadvantages include potential performance issues, such as N+1 issue or issues related to incorrectly implemented equals, hashcode, and string methods. Plus, ORM tools might not be suitable for complex data models and specific operations, like referencing a part of the composite key, for example. Blaze persistence can be used in combination with Hibernate. This library provides a rich criteria API that aims to and is considered to be better than JPA Criteria API. It is more fluent, laconic, and supports advanced features such as window functions, common table expressions, easy pagination, and many more. It also provides entity views that facilitate working with DTOs. With Blaze persistence, you are still in the realm of ORM, but you can take advantage of a more powerful criteria API. Okay, what if you want to have control of your SQL, but don't want to go all the way down to JDBC? That's where jOOQ takes the stage. jOOQ stands for Java Object-Oriented Querying. With Hibernate, you write your Java classes and then let the tool generate database tables and rows. With jOOQ, you write tables first and then let the tool generate the corresponding classes. It's the database-first approach. With jOOQ, you think in SQL and write queries, but not raw string queries like with JDBC. jOOQ ships with its own domain-specific language that emulates SQL in Java. It means that you can write type-safe SQL statements as if Java natively supported it. Under the hood, jOOQ generates SQL and executes it using JDBC. But what means type-safe? jOOQ can use a Java compiler and generics to check the queries at compile time. It checks column types, row value expression types, and SQL syntax. This way, if there is an error in your SQL, the code won't compile, and you will be able to fix the issue right away. So, when should you consider using jOOQ? When you want SQL-first approach with complex joins, window functions, and so on. Also, when you prefer type-safe query building. To conclude, let's separate the concerns. JDBC is a low-level API. It is always there somewhere. Everything eventually calls it. From here, you can use JDBC API only and write SQL and mapping logic. You can use an ORM tool to generate database tables and let it build SQL for you. If you are happy with Hibernate and entities, but hate JPA's Criteria API, Blaze persistence is your upgrade path. Alternatively to ORM, you can use jOOQ to generate Java classes from database tables and build type-safe SQL in Java code. So, when to use what? You can use JPA via Hibernate or another implementation if you have a trivial domain model with standard entities and relationships, when the majority of queries are standard CRUD operations, and when you need to load complex entity graphs and you don't want to manually parse them. You can use jOOQ when SQL is central to your application, when you have complex reports, custom joins, and analytics, or you want compile time safety but don't want ORM magic. Finally, you can use raw JDBC when you are writing a small focused service with a handful of queries, or you want minimal dependencies and full control. But actually, in some use cases, you don't have to choose. You can combine the ORM tool and jOOQ or plain JDBC in one project. This way, you can take the best of both worlds. If this video was useful to you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to our channel, and until next time!